Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with Monday Special, where we're delving into the do's and don'ts of family planning, so to speak. A very quick definition: family planning is the practice of controlling the number of children in a family and the intervals between their births, particularly by use of contraceptives. So that's just a quick definition. Of course, it's evolved over time, and then we'll be talking a little bit more about the different types of contraceptives, when to begin using them, what to consider, and that kind of thing. So let me introduce you to my panelists right now. We'll start on my far left. We have Rennie Wangoi, who is a student. She'll tell us a little bit more about what informed her decision to start using contraceptives. And then we have Dr. Mukaindo Mwaniki, who's a gynecologist at the Aga Khan University, and he'll be giving us more of a lot of the issues that some of you are raising about what to use, when, and that kind of thing. And then we have Mike and Shiro Gitonga. They're a couple who've had their ups and downs with contraceptives and family planning. They'll tell us more about their story. So thank you all so much for coming here tonight. I think we'll start with you, Doctor, before we hear from Rennie and our couple here tonight. At what age, really, should a woman begin using contraceptives?
Thank you, Janet, for that question. And I think really from your definition, what it means is that any person who wants to either prevent getting pregnant or actually wants to space her children or stop altogether is a candidate for contraception. Okay,
and you know, you hear and someone asked, you have a lot of young girls, some as young as 13 and 14, using contraceptives because either they're sexually active. Is it okay for a 13 or 14-year-old to use contraceptives?
I think that is a big moral and ethical dilemma in our society today. But medically speaking, I think it is something that a lot of discussion is going on around, and I think personally I would encourage anybody who is exposed to the risk of pregnancy.
Yeah, the younger you have, are there major effects, side effects around using contraceptives? Just in terms of conceiving later on?
Not really, otherwise they would not be allowed in the first place. But it is important that we mention that some people do have medical contraindication or reasons not to use particular family planning, which should be discussed with your doctor when you're starting. But those are very few.
It's different from case to case, right?
Yes.
I think that's what people need to know. Rennie, let's bring you in. You're now, correct me, 22 years old?
21.
21.
Yes.
And you started using contraceptives at 19.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. Why did you begin to use contraceptives?
I began using contraceptives when I was 19. Yeah. My opinion is that it is better to be safe than sorry.
Okay.
I didn't want any issues of unplanned pregnancies or early ones or unwanted ones. So I decided to plan my future ahead.
Okay.
So I decided to use them.
Did you seek the guidance of a gynecologist, or did you just hear from word of mouth, this is the best one to use?
I went to a health center where I was advised accordingly. Yes, so I was advised. Yes.
And in terms of your peers, even your family, do they know about this, and what do they have to say about it?
Most of my peers know.
Okay.
And my family too.
Okay.
Our society right now, not most of them have the idea of using contraceptives. Yes, so
it's a moral issue.
Yes.
But for you, it was really taking a stand for your health and saying, I don't want any early pregnancies, etc. Did you have any fears? Did you feel like, you know, there's a lot of myths. If you start using contraceptives early, it affects whether or not you'll conceive later on. Did you have any fears around that?
Yes, of course there are, and I asked before using them. The myth that after using them for such a period of time, it will get to a point when you're planning to have a child, you might not get, or health issues such as cancer and other diseases.
So you asked about them, and were you told this could happen, or they said this wouldn't happen?
Well, they advise you accordingly which one is preferred best for you.
Okay. So which one did you start with?
Condoms.
Condoms.
Yes.
Okay. So she's talked about, and I think we've mentioned it before we speak to Shira and Mike, it's about later on. I think a lot of women, the concern is if I start at 19, 20, 21, at 30 years old, 10 years down the line, I'm getting married, I want to start a family, the chances of me conceiving are significantly lower. Is this a myth or a fact?
That is a myth.
It's a myth.
Yes.
So what delays conception? Many different reasons.
Yeah, I think what most people do not understand is even when a healthy couple is not using contraception, it is not that they will conceive in their first month of trying. And a lot of myths therefore emerge from this for people who have been using contraception.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Let's now move to Shiro and Mike. And do you, first of all, do you have any children?
Yes, we have a son.
You have a son. All right. So, and do you plan on having more children?
Not really.
Not really. Tell us a little bit more about your family planning story. Just give us some insight.
Okay. We were both virgins by the time we were getting married, and we looked into it about a month before getting married. And to some extent, we weren't very, we were slightly informed, and we had a few ideas, but we decided to go to family care, and they really dove into it and really taught us basically what is applicable for us and what we can use and what we cannot. But I think the biggest problem for us was that we really didn't sit and ask God, okay, what do we do? So we just looked at the options and we picked one.
Yeah.
But we really didn't want anything hormonal. That was our main problem, because we'd had a few negative things and we were not okay with that.
Yeah. What kind of negative things had you heard?
All these things that are calling myths, issues of intimacy not being there, feelings of intimacy not being there, issues of delayed childbirth, cancer, and the list is endless.
Yeah.
Yes. So we started with an injection. It was a bit of a trial for 2 months. I had a lot of problems with that. The desire for intimacy was completely gone.
Okay.
I had a lot of spotting, and just I really, I don't know, you just don't feel
like yourself.
Yes. It was just, it was uncomfortable.
Okay.
Especially with the spotting and all. That was really difficult.
And that went on for how long?
For the 2 months.
For the 2 months.
Yes. So after we finished with that, we went back to the hospital and we talked to our doctor, who was very helpful, and we told her about it. But this whole thing of losing intimacy, the desire, was sort of downplayed. You were made to feel like maybe it's because we were new at this. That's why it wasn't working. So we just thought, okay, let's keep at it and we'll figure it out along the way. So we, she gave us another few options, and we decided now to try the pill. And so I was on the pill now. So we get into the pill and it got much worse, from spotting to mood swings, and I had a lot of nausea. You'd think I was pregnant.
Yeah.
I was so sick, to the point where we had to call our doctor and tell her, we can't do this anymore. So
and this was after using the pill for how long? Another few months?
No, I didn't even get to 10 days. I think it was about 9 days.
Wow, okay.
It was really, really bad. So we went back to her and we talked, and she said, well, it looks like you're not a good candidate for a hormonal contraceptive. So she told me, try something that is non-hormonal. And for us, that wasn't really an issue. Doing non-hormonal, we don't have an issue with. But hormonal, we truly have an issue with, because we felt this is even going against what God created. I'm telling my body, you should do this at this particular time. And that was really the problem for us. Yes.
So eventually, what happened, Mike, after the pill and the issues that she had? What then happened? What decisions did you make?
First of all, let me give a background. And as a preacher of the gospel, I have to start with what the Bible says. And first of all, I have to make it clear that I speak for many people, because I thank God for that experience, because you see, it was something new for us. Can you imagine you're young and like the Bible says, abstain, and this pleases God by the grace of God. So we'd go preaching to young people, abstain, don't have sex before marriage, and by God's grace we're also practicing it. So when that time came, we get married, as she is explained. We went, got the call, not the call, sorry, the injection. And so it is my first time, and so when that time came, it wasn't tender, like that, as in I've been looked forward to this time, and she's not responding. I try everything, all those things you're told, breakfast in bed, all those things, nothing.
And that was after the injection and the pill. So tell us a little bit about what happened now after the pill, after you saw what was happening to her.
So we decided, hey, as in this can't continue anymore, because I think we're not looking at something like, look at a couple, this is a man, you're wondering what's happening, and God has given you the go-ahead, your parents, everyone knows this is, it's okay for you to now do it, and nothing is happening. So we said, let's just stop it, because everyone were asking. Interestingly, even when we went for PMCC, there's a premarital counseling, no one told us about such things. And this idea, I even remember there was this ad about Usisikiza, something like that. There's nothing like that. It's not myths. And I'm telling you, I can assure even from the text, you'll hear people saying, those are not myths. It's actually the truth. Because it's something that can break a marriage. Because if someone is not, and it's not her fault. It's a problem with the so
I can see you feel really strongly.
You know, like,
all right, I've heard you. We need to move along. Let me bring this back to you. And I think you're probably some of the most castigated group of people in the country when it comes to people saying, I've had these side effects. You've heard what she said. Isn't there some kind of connection between the use of contraceptives and these side effects? Tell us about that, because she clearly said that she reacted.
Oh yes, I think this brings out the picture that, you know, a lot of data brings out that, you know, just about 60 or so %, all 6 in 10 couples actually get the full information when they go to seek for it. And even fewer actually get the information about side effects. So that, I believe, is a gap. But with that said, it does not mean that you know, everybody gets the side effects. What is important to know is that, like their journey suggests, that for each couple is a journey, is a trial and error most times.
So that's the so there's a couple maybe watching the show right now, considering you know, family planning. They don't really want to go through this trial and error. They don't want to go through the mood swings and the spotting. So what options do they have? Where can they start?
Yes, I think this needed to be said right from the beginning. When people think about contraception, they only think about the conventional, you know, family planning. But included in family planning is also the concept of natural family planning. There is non-hormonal methods, for example, coils and the rest. But there is also a very good, you know, and solid, you know, basket of hormonal methods. And, you know, this... Such as, for example, the pills. There is the injections that you get after 2 months, and some you get after 3 months. And there is also some implants, or small rods with hormones that you place in your arm.
So how do you know which one to use? How do you know which one is right for you?
First, you need, when you talk to your healthcare provider, many times they will ask a few questions to find out if you're one of those people who should know no use. You should not use a certain method. But that said, over 99% of the couples will be eligible for any method. And the choice you begin with often depends on your desires. For example, how long do you want to wait? Are you open to hormonal methods versus non-hormonal? And such like considerations. So it becomes more of a decision that you make. But the understanding is that, and should be that, at any point you're free to change and opt out of the method if it gives you significant concern.
Okay, we're taking a short break soon. Rennie, did you then move on to other contraceptives?
No, I did not move to the more advanced ones. I just stayed where I started.
Do you intend to?
Maybe after marriage.
Yeah. Is it because of, again, some of the concerns, like maybe what Shiro is saying, some of those side effects?
Yeah, some of those, plus I must consider my partner. Yeah.
All right. Someone you can trust.
Yes.
All right. And our gynecologist tonight, our doctor, a little bit more about hormonal versus non-hormonal methods. If you could tell us the difference. And I know most of the ones that have been mentioned, for instance, by Mike and Shiro, were the hormonal, right? And they seem to be the ones that have these so-called side effects. So first, tell us the difference very quickly and why it seems like they don't work as well as the non-hormonal.
Okay. So basically, hormonal methods are methods that introduce hormone in your system, and the idea of that is to be able to control your ability to release an egg and conceive. So then there is non-hormonal methods. Among them we have a whole cohort of things like condoms and barrier methods, but others would include things like devices that you put in the womb to prevent the chance of conception, like what people call coils commonly. Also thinking about non-hormonal, we have things like you know, sterilization, both male and female. So there is a whole lot in each category.
Okay, and safe days, tell us a bit about safe days.
Safe days. Safe days is you know, that falls under what is generally referred as natural contraception, and this is where you understand your cycle in order to prevent having sex on the days that you could potentially conceive.
Are all women eligible to work with safe days?
Safe days only works best for couples who have been able for about 6 months to document their cycle and know that it is indeed very regular.
Yeah.
So yes, it is not something for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we come back to Rennie, for Mike and Shiro, after the pill, you decided no more contraceptives, right? You said no more. So what did you do? You just, and then of course you have a son now. So tell us about that journey from the time you stopped using the pill until you conceived.
We just decided to just, use nothing. And 4 months later, I conceived. And we had a beautiful baby, healthy.
2 years old now?
Yes, about 2.5, slightly over 2.5.
Okay.
Yes.
And so even now, are you on any contraceptives?
Yes, now we are, but not hormonal.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And you intend to have more children in the future? Is that a discussion you haven't had?
We have, but
yes.
Not in the near future.
Not in the near future. Is it related to what you went through? Is that why, or is it because of other reasons?
No, other reasons.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So right now, you would say you don't really believe in contraceptives or family planning.
We do believe in family planning. Our issue is especially with the hormonal family planning.
Okay, you've mentioned that. Yeah. Rennie, your age group, there's a lot of young women now using contraceptives. Do you feel like they have an understanding of how they work, or do you feel like some of them are just winging it? They just wake up, take the morning after pill and move on?
My opinion is that most of them have no knowledge of contraceptives and how they are supposed to be used. Most of them just hear from their peers, then they start using them instead of going to a health center, then getting some advice.
Yeah.
So I feel that people should really look into it first before using it, and visit the health center and get some advice.
Okay.
Yeah.
How often should then women or couples visit a doctor, the gynecologist, once they're on contraceptives? How often should that visit be?
First of all, usually contraception can be provided by even up to the health center and dispensary level, so you do not need doctors. But about revisits while you're on a contraceptive method, usually really depends on the method you are on. For example, most time once you're on the pill and you are going, the side effects phase probably has passed, most times you may not need to see your doctor. So mainly would say during periods when you have side effects, or if you have any concerns at all about your method, mostly that is the time.
And you're saying after that you can always change?
You can always change, yes.
There's also a lot of questions around what kind of contraceptives to use when you're lactating, when you're a breastfeeding mom. Tell us about that.
So that phase provides a very good opportunity to actually space your children, and right from the time you deliver, and many women don't know this, is at the time of delivery you can actually either, if you don't want any more children, you can actually opt to have your tubes tied or have a vasectomy for your partner, or you can have a coil inserted at that time, so that when you're discharged, you're already covered. But most people would usually know about the revisit at 6 weeks, whereby most of the methods are available, except that which have a particular hormone that may reduce breast milk.
Okay. Oh yeah, exactly. So it can affect lactation.
Just those that contain estrogen, one of the components in some family planning methods. But that is advised once you are weaning your baby, then you could still go on those methods.
Okay, there's another question again around the coil. There's a woman who wrote in saying that she's on the coil and she was meant to have either removed or changed it in 2014. It's now 2016. She's wondering whether she will have any effects on her body.
Okay, usually depends on the type of coil that you have put. There are some for 5 years. There are others that are supposed to go as far as 12 years. The commonest is the one that goes for up to 12 years. Initially had been licensed for 10 years, and a lot of women knew that 10 years would be the limit. But as more data comes across, we are able to tell that some of these methods are effective beyond the 10 years, so 12 years is still good.
So if you've gone past 12 years, is that harmful to your body?
You should consult your doctor so that you probably may have it changed.
Another myth, or other women saying that sometimes there's rumors that the coil moves around in the body.
Oh yes, I've come across those concerns too. But what probably some people may be describing is a very small, tiny proportion of the women may actually get the coil either dislodging and coming down, especially those who have very heavy flows, and sometimes the threads that actually are left for removal may not be felt, but most times even in such circumstances the coil is in place.
Okay.
Yes, but just to emphasize, is in a very tiny proportion of the women.
It's a small proportion.
Yes.
Before we go to some tweets,
yes.
There's also a question here about Depo-Provera.
Yes.
It says it's a contraceptive that is widely banned world over, in the world over safety concerns. Zimbabwe banned it in 1981. How come some of these are still in use in Kenya?
I think that is probably a wrong communication. The Depo-Provera is actually available in most countries in the world. And actually it is the commonest method in use in Kenya. That is according to the 2014 Kenya Demographic and Health Survey. And as such, a lot of concerns obviously will come up from when you have such a large pool using it. But still suffices to tell you that if it's that popular, it's still working for a lot of women.
But it's been banned in some countries. Reasons why?
Not really, not really. What really happens sometimes, the issues about regulation and other concerns may come in, but even in countries like the US and the the European Union, it's still being used. So as also most of Africa.
In rural areas, even in Kenya, what kind of access to family planning? I know you're a professional, you're a doctor, but you probably also understand these social issues, and some of them saying they don't have the right access to family planning. So what options do they have?
I think this falls squarely in the in the docket of the ministry, and I know they have been trying to roll out an essential package of health services that reaches up to the lowest level, which is the community and the dispensary, where there should be supplies and personnel to ensure that they offer these services.
All right.
Yes.
Let's now take a look at some of the tweets that were sent in. Let's see what you're saying on Twitter, whether it's comments or questions. Engineer_James says, how soon should a woman start using family planning after birth? I think you've just answered that. And then we have Jaigasan Patrick K. Can using contraceptives cause yeast infections to ladies or even affect men? I think you can answer that question for us in just a few. And then I think we have, let's move on, Easter Achengo Ketch. Informed consent is key. This cannot be done during road shows. Family planning is both for men and women. The burden on the women is high.
Yes.
Right? And then we have Anne Rose, never settle on a long or short-term method because your friend used it and it worked. Our bodies are different, which again you've emphasized. It's different from person to person. And then since prevention is better than cure, it's morally upright to use them. However, youth should abstain until marriage. Okay, the burden on women is high.
Yeah, in fact, let me talk on behalf of, sometimes I think as men we are so hard on women because, again, I'll insist, they are not myths, they are not. Yeah, let's agree on that, they are not. Because personally, when I'm doing counseling, I've come across so many couples complaining about the same thing, so it can't be a myth. A myth is something that has not happened. So as men, we really have to care for women because they go through a lot. Other than the pressures of work, there is this hormonal contraceptive that is giving them different moods. You're wondering what's happening, so we should care. And also as men, we should not just tell women just go go see the doctor, because it amazes me, like if I go to a doctor and he wants to treat me for something else and tells me let's try this, and that's exactly what the Daktari and the tell us. It's trial and method. So I for one, I said, my wife is not an experiment. She's not an experiment. I have, as in, that's the only thing. Like, imagine, Janet, you going to a doctor and they say, let's try this drug on you. How would you feel? That's exactly what happens to contraception. And I think the problem here, let's call it what it is. It's money. Because, like, what that person said about that, what's that, the particular contraception that has been banned. As in, there are so many other stories like that. But you see, sometimes, I don't know why the problem with us, when money is involved, sometimes we tend to be very casual about things. And just on behalf of her and the generation, I really cry for our generation. And my prayer for my generation, the young people, just know, a contraceptive cannot prevent you from a guilty conscience. You know, it cannot cover you from guilt. So don't start going into contraception, or parents who are giving your children contraception. That's wrong. You know, you're leading them the wrong way. You know, you're a parent. You should direct. You know, the Bible says, train a child in the way he should go.
We were talking about this earlier on in the newsroom, and it got very heated. But that's a different discussion on sort of the moral and ethical issues around family planning. But tonight we're really trying to do just the do's and don'ts. But that is a whole other discussion for a different for a different night. I'm being asked about a certain Chinese pill. That's all I'm being told. There is a certain Chinese pill that women are using. Is there a name to it, and what are some of the issues around it?
There is, some you know, unconventional family planning methods. For example, the Chinese pill, I think, has been in the market for a while. Tends to be taken once a month, but the key thing is that for us to be able to accept a method, always ask for the literature, for the research that has been done on it, so that, for example, as he says, you can be able to differentiate what are the recognized side effects and what are the myths about this method, so that you have a clear understanding of what you're getting to. So a lot of the time, some of this may not be accompanied by literature, but as literature comes up, they get more acceptance.
All right. And just as we wind up, just to be clear, so you're saying what Shira and Mike are talking about is a lot of these myths. A lot of people who've written in again are saying this and this has happened to me. So just to be clear, you're saying it's different from one person to the next, or what are you saying around the issues and the fears and concerns that people have around the use of contraceptives?
Let's put it clearly, Janet, that there is a difference between what we call recognized side effects of a method. For example, any drug you are given, you'll be told these are the side effects. But there are other things, for example, that may not be essentially true about a method, but come up across, you know, as people use it. So, for example, nausea and such things, nausea and a bit of breastfulness are recognized side effects of a method, and this should be clearly stated to a couple when they are, you know, they have approached a medical provider for that. But there are those that are totally untrue. But as you said, it is on a case-to-case basis that you should seek this information and actually get it. So
recognized side effects such as nausea is just initially, or it can sort of last you throughout the time that you're using the contraceptive?
Most people is actually initially. And not everybody gets these side effects.
All right. Okay, I think that's all the time we have. I think we heard your closing comments. You know, maybe you have something that you very quickly want to say, and then we'll hear from Rennie as well.
I think I would want to encourage everyone out there to not just treat family planning as a medical issue, but as a life issue. This body is created by God, and He knew what He was doing when He organized it the way He did, and it works a certain way. And some of the things we're taking are disorganizing what God organized. And we need to really be careful. We need to mind each other as a couple and put God first.
Okay.
Yes.
I want you to quickly respond to that before we hear from Rennie. There is a moral standpoint to that, but at the same time, a lot of people argue family planning is necessary if you're trying to keep numbers at a certain place in country. So what would you want to say to her who's more or less discouraging, can I say that, the use of family planning, especially hormonal?
I think there is that debate that is to be had, and as a society we need to settle to a point where we, you know, we sometimes have to live and let live. There are those couples who really, you know, would wish to have a method to prevent them getting pregnant, and they do not have, you know, that information, and those are the questions that we need to deal with. Otherwise, I think the Constitution also recognized this, and in Article 43 said that everybody has the right to the highest attainable you know, levels of health, including reproductive health, and this is a key component. Imagine, Janet, that we would be able to save up to 2 out of every 5 women who actually die of childbirth if we are able to meet the needs of contraception for everybody who actually needs it. So those are the questions that we need to discuss and have answers as a society.
That's powerful information. Okay, and finally, Rennie?
My advice to the youth is that you do not have to rush into things. And if you really have to engage in intercourse, maybe you can use the most common, which are condoms, instead of rushing into the complex contraceptives. And that's just it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, well, thank you so much for all your views. Like we said, there's so many different dynamics to this discussion. We appreciate your views. We appreciate your feedback as well. You just mentioned something very powerful about the prevention of I think, maternal deaths, which is, again, another dynamic to this discussion. Something that we'll repeat, of course, here on Monday Special. We're taking a short break before we invite Hussein Mohammed on set, take some of your feedback, and, of course, wind up. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
We have a life, both of us, and it's because we love each other.